Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before I jump on into today's first look, I do want to remind you, if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our DriveThruRPG as well as other One Bookshelf site affiliate links, or by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal, or by becoming a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links down in the show notes. Also in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server, so be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Today, I am going to take a first look at the core rulebook for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition from Green Ronin Publishing. This is written by Steve Kenson, Chris Parmas, Malcolm Shepard, and Owen Casey Stevens. This 288-page hardcover is available now, carries an MSRP of $54.95. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $27.95. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got the core rulebook for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, the fine folks over at Green Ronin Publishing were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important you know that. Also want to mention, normally Green Ronin Publishing doesn't provide physical copies for review. So a big thank you for Green Ronin Publishing kind of breaking their own rules to provide me with this physical review copy. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a very good feel of what you're going to find inside. I've got to say, I've never really taken a peek at any of the games from Green Ronin Publishing. Always heard good things about them. Always heard good things about the adventure game engine. I think that is what Age represents. And I do believe it's 3 6-sided dice that you utilize. Then again, I'm just winging this. I have not taken a peek at any of the Green Ronin stuff before, so it might turn out I'm going to look like a complete idiot here, but I could have swore it's 3 6-sided dice, or at least 6-sided dice. So let's take a look at the back here. Leap into sword and sorcery RPG adventures with the Fantasy Age core rulebook. Powered by the popular adventure game engine, Fantasy Age 2nd Edition is easy to learn, fun to play, and welcoming to new role players. The Fantasy Age core rulebook includes these features. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'll read a few. Simple character creation. Pick an ancestry such as Drac, Dwarf, Goblin, or Wildfolk. Pick a class, Envoy, Mage, Rogue, or Warrior. Pick a specialization such as Duelist, Diplomat, Pirate, and Sword Mage, and jump into the action. Heroic stunts. The heart of the game is the stunt system, which brings dynamism and drama to the table. Roll doubles on 3d6 to pull off unexpected moves in combat, cast more potent spells, perform amazing feats of physical and mental prowess, or even cut a rival down to size with a few clever words. Mighty magic. Spellcasters learn arcana, which are themed groups of spells. Mixing and matching the 19 arcana gives the mage class a huge amount of flexibility. To get started, choose 2 arcana like Beast, Cold, Death, Earth, Fate, Fire, Healing, Protection, Mind, and Shadow. That's only a few of the 19. And then there's more, but we're going to take a look inside the book. First thing we're going to do is take a peek at the credits page. There we go. A lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life, so let's give credit where credit is due. So we've got our table of contents, we've got our player section, and our game master section. So it looks like the game master section starts at page 160. So a little more than half the book is devoted to the player section. Here's our introduction. Welcome to Fantasy Age, a role-playing game that lets you be the hero in your own sword and sorcery adventures. In Fantasy Age, you and your friends take on the personas of warriors, mages, counselors, and rogues in a fantastical world and try to gain fame by overcoming sinister foes and deadly challenges. Facing down a murderous ogre in ancient cursed ruins, engaging in a duel of wits with a haughty noble, or uncovering the secrets of lost civilizations are all possible. Your character may win renown, or you may die alone in the trackless wilderness. Whatever your fate, your story is your own to tell. In Fantasy Age, you make the choices and try to survive the consequences. So we get our traditional what's a role-playing game. It's like it's going to give us a breakdown of what's different in this second edition. An example of play, our basic game concepts, characters, abilities, stunts, and game dice. So it looks like our test result is 3d6 plus your ability. So I'm going to take a guess. We'll have target numbers. Says characters also have a health rating. When damage is inflicted, this reduces health. If it reaches 0, your character may die. Here's a players section. One thing I want to mention right off the bat, this paper stock is really nice. Nice and thick. Very cool. Artwork looks really solid too. We'll find out as we flip on through. So here's our character creation. Making a character in 9 easy steps. Create a character concept, determine abilities, choose an ancestry, determine social class and background, choose a class, pick equipment, calculate defense and speed, pick a name, and choose your goals and character ties. So our abilities are accuracy, communication, constitution, dexterity, fighting, intelligence, perception, strength, and willpower. So there are a couple of different ways to go about determining your abilities. So it says your ability rating start at 0. You get 13 advancements to increase them. Oh, and then it shows, okay, 3d6. So you could roll them randomly. So as far as our abilities, it looks like it's going to be our modifier. So rather than having a 16, you'll have a 3. And then, of course, for our action resolution, it looks like we roll 3d6, add our ability, and that is going to give you your final result. So here we've got rolling your ability ratings. Ability focuses. A focus is an area of expertise within the larger ability. While, for example, intelligence determines how smart your character is, a heraldry focus indicates a special knowledge of coats of arms and royal families. In game system terms, if you have a focus, your ability is effectively 2 higher than normal when working within that specialty. It says it's explained in greater detail in the basic rules. So I've got the different focuses for each of the abilities. So as an example, communication, we've got things like animal handling, gambling, leadership. Fighting has axes, heavy blades, pole arms. Perception, empathy, hearing, searching, seeing. That's pretty wild. I wonder if your ancestry is going to give you some focuses as well as maybe your class and your specialty give you some focuses. So we've got ancestry benefits. Talking about mixed ancestry characters. So we've got the Drac. Looks like it's a lizard man sort of character. Got the dwarf, the elf, the gnome, the goblin, the halfling, the human, the orc, and the wild folk. All right, so those are the ancestries. I would pretty much guarantee there's no doubt more ancestries and supplemental material, probably a lot of various different backgrounds, classes, things like that. Some of our backgrounds, we've got criminal, pirate, artist, soldier, sailor, initiate, merchant, noble, scholar, squire. Gives us a little bit of background there. Here are our classes. I wonder if we've got just 4 classes like we saw on the back cover. There's our envoy, a master of social situations, building or exploiting relationships and group interactions. So we got a couple of pages devoted to that. Looks like we have class powers that you earn as you level up. Talking about our primary abilities, our secondary abilities, starting health, weapon groups. Oh, it looks like we've got black powder weapons in Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. Here's our mage, our rogue, our warrior. Yep, so there you go. We've got 4 core classes. Talks about class concepts. So it looks like we get additional focuses at different levels too. So here it looks like even number levels, you gain 1 ability focus selected from your primary abilities. Interesting. Equipment. It's like, are these the rules now? Yep, here's our basic rules. The core system ability tests. If you're called upon to roll dice in Fantasy Age, it will usually be to make a test. Roll to see whether your character succeeds or fails at something. The rules for tests are what most of the game's other rules are based on. So if you know how to roll for tests, you'll pick up the rest quickly. The dice come out whenever a character's action is important to the story and there's a chance it might fail. That's when it's time to roll an ability test. Here's what you do. So we get 3d6 plus the ability, plus if you happen to have a corresponding focus, that gives you an additional, I think it was 2. And then that gets your test result. Here's our target numbers. Routine is 7, easy is 9, average 11, challenging 13, hard is 15, formidable 17, imposing 19, and epic is 21. They're talking about opposed rolls, modifying rolls. So that's a relatively easy mechanic for your action resolution. Looks like we're going to get into combat here with different damage types. We do have defense, using cover. I'm curious about the stunts that were mentioned. There's some conditions. Special situations in combat. Grenades. There we go. Talking about miniatures, battle maps, virtual tabletops. Healing and recovering. Social encounters, interactions. There's our character options. Talking about our ability focuses. And it gives us a little breakdown of what each of those happens to be. You can have a double focus. Your bonus with your focus increases to +3 at level 11, but even that may not be enough to reflect your character's training, dedication, and experience. Therefore, at higher levels, characters can take a focus for a second time to further improve their bonus on those rolls. Starting at level 11, when you would gain a new focus, you may instead select a focus you already have to increase your bonus with that focus by an additional +1. This is known as having a double focus or double focusing. So if you have the double focus bonus, it's +4. You can trade focuses. That's an optional rule. Here's some of our talents, like animal training, armor training, human secrets, intrigue, lore, different fighting styles, single weapon style, unarmed style, wild folk secrets, and our specializations. So you have arcane disciple, arcane scholar, aristocrat, diplomat, gladiator, holy warrior, mage hunter. There is darkness in magic, and someone must protect the world from evil spells and sorcerers. You've learned how to fight spellcasters, stealing your spirit against their powers. You may have consecrated your weapons against magic, or you may know how to strike at the meridians and other subtle flows of magic that course through spells and creatures. In any event, your path is a calling, whether driven by religious conviction, civic duty, or a desire for revenge. Huh. Sharpshooter, necromancer, a skald. So if you're looking to be kind of a bard character. Here's our equipment. So our currency, 100 copper pieces equal 10 silver pieces, which equal 1 gold piece. And we get some artwork for some of the weapons here. So we're getting our damage. So as an example, a fist does 1d3. Heavy lance does 3d6 plus 1. Also shows minimum strength to use these weapons. Different armor ratings. So this is all gear here. Clothes and fashion, trade goods. All right, here we go. Getting into the magic. So we have it divided into arcana. There were 19. The back cover told us. Talking about learning spells. So you have to have a focus in arcana. So that would lead me to believe not every character has access to magic in Fantasy Age 2nd edition. So you have to roll dice to cast a spell. It looks like spell casting is not automatic. Yay! I always like that. There's an option for divine magic. So we've got our spell stunts. If you make a successful casting roll and get doubles on any of the dice, you can perform one or more spell stunts in addition to the spell's normal effect. You receive a number of stunt points equal to the stunt die and must use them right away to perform stunts. Once you've decided on what spell stunts you want to use, you can narrate their effects, and you can perform stunts in any order you choose. So you have things like powerful casting, lasting spell, fast casting, disrupt magic, lethal spell. If the spell does damage, either one target of the spell takes an extra 2d6 damage. Alternately, you can have all targets of the spell take an additional 1d6. That's pretty wild. That's pretty cool. Then we're going to get into our arcanas. So as an example, we have the Divination Arcana, Bloodmark, Sentinel, Divine Speech, Forewarning, Ill Omens, Good Omens, Scrying, and Unveil. Earth Arcana has Rock Blast, Stone Cloak, Earthquake, Quagmire. And it looks as if we have magic points. So as an example, we have the Wall of Fire. You conjure a wall of roaring flames to block and burn your enemies. That has a magic point cost of 10. And you must be a master of the Fire Arcana. Interesting. So I'll take a wild stab that with your 6-sided dice, you probably need to have another color. So you probably have to have one die of one color, and then the rest of your dice can be other colors or all one other color, because it said the stunt die. So now we're going to get into stunts. Now that you know all the basic rules for playing the game, you can explore encounters and use the dice to help determine their outcomes. You're all set to brawl with enemies, solve mysteries, and sway hearts and minds. This chapter introduces a way to make those encounters more exciting and dynamic, called stunts. With stunts, a hero can win an argument or defeat a foe with style. You can perform maneuvers to give yourself or your teammates extra advantages to accomplish feats more complex than the basic rules cover. Most NPCs can also use stunts, so the GM can mix things up and make challenges more fun. So generating stunt points. So that's when you get doubles. When you're successful on an ability test and you roll doubles on any two of the dice, rolling 3 of a kind has no extra benefit. You generate a number of stunt points equal to the value shown on the stunt die. So you probably have to have a separate color. So if you want to do 1 black die and the rest white dice, something like that. So it talks about spending your stunt points. So I guess you're going to have anywhere from 1 to 6 stunt points. Use them or lose them. You must spend all the stunt points you gain from doubles and the stunt attack action immediately. Any unused stunt points are lost. The stunt has to fit the action. The stunts must tell a story. Your stunts must represent actions and events in the game world. In other words, they must tell part of the story. For instance, you'd be hard-pressed to use sabotage to represent a life or death wrestling match. On the other hand, using stunts creatively is part of the fun, and the game master should allow inventive justifications for particular stunts. So we have different stunt tables. So we've got basic combat stunts, basic social stunts, class stunts. Okay. Now we move into the game master section. So, of course, we're going to see advice on how to run Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. Talk about campaign planning, encounters, starting the session, breaks and interruptions, information management, initiative trackers, stunt sheets, campaign journal, game notes. It's like we've got a lot of different sheets that the game master's going to be tracking. I'm sure some of them are probably fairly optional. Spotlight time, making sure every player gets their time to shine. Talking about challenges, relationships. I guess we have ranks. This is, I guess, an optional rule. Mastering ability tests. Which abilities and focuses apply? How much time does a test take? What are the stakes? What are the consequences of failure? Then we have complex tests. So we've got advanced tests when time is a factor, challenge tests, extended tasks where failure has consequences, cooperation as well. We've got some chase rules, hazards. In both action and exploration scenes, characters may encounter all kinds of dangers other than blades, arrows, and spells. In most adventures, traps, falling, fire, and other perils challenge heroes as well. All of these things fall under the general header of hazards. Fantasy Age handles hazards with a simple system that can be used to simulate everything from pit traps to drowning. Published adventures will define hazards for you, but when you need to adjudicate them, answer the following questions. What's the nature of the hazard? Can it be avoided? How dangerous is it? Does it have any special effects? And how long does it last? We get some optional horror rules, horror tests. Wonder if the player characters have to worry about some sort of a sanity condition. Daring. Daring is the flip side of peril. There you go. Optional peril. In Fantasy Age adventures, the player characters face ever-increasing challenges. More powerful enemies, more dangerous traps, more perilous hazards. A well-crafted story provides just enough challenge to keep the players on their toes. However, sometimes no matter how well you do, things just go wrong. Peril introduces a new element where each success increases the risk to the characters. It's not exactly a rule of storytelling that every triumph should precede a new, greater barrier to success, but it makes for interesting problems, interesting solutions, and tragic failures. Interesting concept. And then we also have the flip side to that would be daring. Another optional rule, fortune. So that's kind of cool. We get a good amount of optional material for the game masters in here. All right, now we're going to get into our baddies. So we've got our adversaries, minor NPCs, major NPCs, extras. So we've got some stat blocks here. Stat blocks look pretty concise. different beasts. We get into our fantasy creatures. So the dragon, elementals, Gnarlwalker. Artwork's pretty cool here. Not every entry is getting artwork, though. Some look like Medusa. I just saw Medusa. There was no art. Most people know what a Medusa looks like. I would say there's a far, far more detailed bestiary for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition out there. So reputation, magic items. This must be our treasure section here. Artifacts. I've got to say, I'm very intrigued. It appears we've got a location. I don't think this is an introductory adventure, but this is giving us kind of a setting here. Oh, maybe it's giving us a bit of a sandbox. No, this looks more gazetteer. Here's our introductory adventure. Set sail for Breakwater Bay, which we just saw right here. It's designed to take characters of Breakwater Bay, allowing players to step into the role of cunning, brave, resourceful heroes in a pre-industrial world of swashbuckling and adventure. All right. And I'll take a guess. This is how we're going to wrap up the book here. And this is a relatively detailed introductory adventure here. Always like to see that. There's quite a few pages devoted to it. Here's our glossary. We've got an index. Obviously, we're going to finish up with our character sheets and such. Here's our peril pool, our daring pool. Initiative and quick reference cards. Here's our character sheets. And we finish up with an advertisement for the Expanse role-playing game. So that is a peek inside the core rulebook for the 2nd edition of Fantasy Age from Green Ronin Publishing. Once again, this 288-page hardcover is available now. Carries an MSRP of $54.95. If you want to grab just the PDF, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $27.95. Sweet. This looks really cool. I am really interested. So, of course, I will have a review of this 2nd edition core rulebook for Fantasy Age, the not too distant future. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this first look, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.